Welcome to another edition of Your Impact Attack. That's right, it's Your Impact Attack. And we are just the handlers. And who are we? I am Jamie Williams. With me, as always, my tag team partner, Brandon. And we are going to be discussing Impact and some other Impact excursions, maybe down under. And we may or may not have a special guest. We'll just have to see, and you'll just have to stay tuned and see. Brandon, how's it going today?
It's going pretty good, man. How are you doing today?
Man, it is hot. It is hot as a mother, let me tell you.
Yep.
It's right now, it's a cool 94 degrees right now, like believe it or not, that's the cool break weather. Like, oh, it's only 94, like that. It's like over here it's 6:30 in the evening and it's just like blazing bright outside. Like the sun is just like, hey, what's up? Not going anywhere. How's it going? Let's just see if we get the idiots blowing off ordnance in the streets, because that's one thing. It's been quieter this year, I think, because it's so hot. People don't even want to go outside just to blow off, M80s or whatever and chunk up the residential areas. But how's things out that way?
It's been pretty hot. Definitely not as hot as where it is where you're at, but we're getting our asses kicked with the heat.
Yeah, the other day it was like 110. And we had a really cool week a couple weeks ago. We had like a record setting low in June where it was like, highs in the mid or the mid 70s, and it's like, I know I'm going to pay for this. Like, it's just a matter of time. We're gonna have record low June, and then in November it's gonna set record highs. Like, we're gonna be sweltering during Thanksgiving. You know what I mean? Like, I know that we're gonna pay for it, but what can you do? It's all you can do. Just try to stay cool, try to stay safe, make sure you stay hydrated, make sure you wear your sunscreen, make sure you wear a hat. Do what you got to do to protect yourself out there wherever you are. It's like this all over the world, I think.
It is nasty.
Yeah. Well, speaking of nasty, we do have to talk about Impact, and we don't really have a hell of a lot of like news or things to kind of. I was looking at the news items and just like, they're like, oh, Mickey James has a return to action date. And then I look at it and it's like for some indie somewhere that has nothing to do with Impact Wrestling. It's like, oh, good. So if you care to see, Mickey James on July 8th for, Fernham Snavitz Wrestling or whatever, then just be on the lookout for that. Just don't be on the lookout at Impact because we still don't know when she'll be back there. Just slow news week overall. Let's acknowledge the chat while we're thinking about it. I think that's a good idea.
Whoop, whoop. Let's see who we got tonight. Like, we got Lab Rat, Javi Uchida, Elizabeth, Chris Winland. Of course, we're going to get more coming in tonight. How y'all doing? Whoop, whoop.
That's right. As we get things going. And Chris Winland has a question to start off with. He says, if Impact were on a different station, no matter the day or the start time, do you think it would get more viewers or get better in content at all? Seems to have minute potential, yet they just float there. Honestly, for me, I think no matter what the state I think of cable television is these days, which I've been very vocal in my narrative, is that it's not anything to truly go by. Like, these fluctuations of a few 100,000 people just seems to be totally random. I don't think you can really look at those and get like a real pattern of human behavior and viewership by just looking at these supposed Nielsen ratings. I really don't think it's like that. But even despite all that, I will say, if you have a better channel, you just stand to gain more viewers. But if the channel is more high profile, then they may have better options for programming than, putting on Impact Wrestling, and that may be why they don't see like the value in it. Some people can get more. So some stations could get more viewers running a infomercial than they could running an episode of Impact Wrestling. You know, so having somebody pay them for the airtime is more lucrative than having Impact on the station, even if Impact were to pay. I don't know. Can Impact pay more for their airtime? Can they afford to pay more for airtime than, you know, that knife that can cut through a steel pipe or something? Like, I don't know. It's just, I don't know. But I do think that if they were on a better channel, yes, more people would be able to see them. That's just basic math. And you can look at that from when they were on what used to be called Spike down to when it used to be called the, you know, what was it? What was the first downgrade when they went to like, what was it? What was that channel? Like Discovery, like something, some, I don't even know. Maybe the chat can help me. When they went to, it was like a wilderness channel or something like that.
Discovery America.
Discovery America. It was Discovery something. Okay. Went to Discovery America, Pop TV. Like, it just kept getting successively lower and lower viewership. Now they're on Access TV. They always hover around like 100,000 people. Again, I just assume that 100,000 is, you know, senior citizens that fell asleep with a Doobie Brothers concert on, and the TV just stays on there for Impact or whatever. I don't think anybody's really tuning in live for Impact. I think it's just, I don't even get Access TV, and I have Comcast. Comcast is the largest, you know, entertainment provider in the world, and they don't carry Access TV. So I have no way to legitimately watch Impact Wrestling. I would need to have some satellite package or whatever, and I just don't have the channel. So that right there tells you something. Like, if I don't have the channel, how many other people don't have the channel? That's kind of the situation. Brandon, what do you think? Like, do you think it would matter what channel they were on, or how much would it matter?
I mean, like, if they're not on the biggest provider, you're missing out on a lot of potential viewers. So that is a big hit, right off the bat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. So if you have one of those channels, like, no matter what you got, if you got a package or whatever, cable, satellite, yeah. If you got one of those, you probably got like TBS on it, usually, like one of those Turner stations. So you could watch AEW, even though, you know, you may not have heard of them. Even after 4 years, you may not realize there's this wrestling company or whatever. I was watching a YouTube review of Fight Forever, and somebody in the comments was like, "This is the first I've heard of AEW." So if nothing else, this game is it's working as a marketing tool, right? And like, I never really thought about that, even though maybe subconsciously I thought about it, but, you know, the gamers know, like, if you're on Steam or if you're on PlayStation Store, Xbox, whatever, like, you see new games pop up all the time. So if you've seen that game there, then that may be the first time you are hearing of AEW, right? And then you might want to check it out.
Right. It's just more visibility.
Mm-hmm. So, you know, what I'm saying is, if you want to check out AEW, you probably, whether you want to or not, if you've got any sort of like TV deal in your house and you don't just rely on the internet, you could probably find one of the channels that's showing AEW. For Impact Wrestling, maybe not. You know, so it just depends. You could be in my boat where you have a large cable provider, but they don't carry Access TV for whatever reason. And that could just be regional. There could be some Comcast. I'm pretty sure there are Comcast package deals in parts of the country that do carry access. But in my particular location, they don't. So, you know, that's a case-by-case basis. But, you know, I guess that's just a long-winded way to answer the question of saying, if you have a larger reach, you will automatically have larger visibility. But the only question is, are people even going to know to look for it? If they haven't heard of AEW, do they really have a chance of thinking of, you know, finding Impact? Probably. But is it going to significantly increase their numbers? I don't know. And how much revenue does that translate to for Anthem Entertainment? Like, if you have, let's say they triple their viewers, let's say they get like Rampage numbers of 300 plus thousand people, how much more does that make them in revenue? I don't know. That depends on their deals with advertisers and other things. So I don't know. I don't know. Yep. Liz saying that even TBS and TNT are even part of Hulu Plus. You know, Hulu's got those cable networks like tied into that package too. So I don't know. There's ways to find it, but you got to work for it. And for me, it's the only option is to go to a certain site and, you know, watch the replays there. The only other option would be to become one of those YouTube subscribers, you know, and pay like a monthly subscription fee to watch the Impact shows, which is not a bad deal. There's probably like $5 a month, like most YouTube subscription or, you know, memberships, usually about $5 a month or more. And you can do that, and $5 for what, roughly 8 hours of content a month plus, you know, the occasional, they include some of those lesser pay-per-views. So you're probably getting between, you know, 10 and 12 hours of content for $5 a month. It's not bad if you really love Impact and want to support them. It's not a bad deal. But yeah, I don't know. I think that's one of those struggles of being like a smaller wrestling promotion that has any kind of TV deal. You know, TV is sort of on the way out. Of course, TV still wants to stay relevant. You know, they still want to have their they still need their programming and everything. But do the viewers need it? Do the viewers need to watch it when they can turn to the internet? Pretty soon, it's going to age out of people that are willing to pay. You know, I don't even want to say what my cable bill was last month. I don't want to say it, but it's gonna, you know, eventually that's going to age out of people like that, and people that are like the head of the household are people that have grown up getting everything they want off the internet for free. And I think you're going to see that because, Brandon, haven't you heard of like stories about like Disney, you know, being like this many millions of dollars in the hole or whatever, you know, because they've invested in their streaming and they don't have the amount of people signing up for it to like make up that revenue. Netflix doing price hikes, like people investing in streaming and they're putting this money in streaming and then it's not turning enough of the profit that they need, right? Why do you think that is? There's plenty of people that want to watch these shows and these, you know, these things and these movies and whatever, but they all go and just illegally stream it, download it from different sites and stuff. It's like the full customer base, the potential customer base is not purchasing it, you know, legitimately. They're just going to the internet and getting it for free. That's the problem that everybody's going to face, all these big companies are going to face in the next 10, 15 years as the legitimately paying, you know, old-fashioned group of customers ages out, and we bring in the, you know, all these kids that are stealing shit on the internet are now in their 30s and 40s, and they're like, I've never paid for any of this. I'm not going to start now, you know? Like, I'm going to pay the extra Netflix price hike? No, I think I'm just going to download this for free somewhere. It's a thing, and it's going to cripple these guys in the long run, I think. Like, what do you think about that?
That is a definite possibility. I mean, people aren't going to put up with their crap anymore if they have easy ways to get around it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, as long as, I mean, I think, so you and I are old enough to remember when the internet wasn't in everybody's house, right? Like, and it certainly wasn't in everybody's pocket at all times, right? So we're like of that last, and I think a lot of the people in the chat are too, are of that last generation of, we didn't get everything for free. We remember where you had to buy stuff. But we're the last to do it. So that's something everybody's going to be challenged with going forward. And apparently the fireworks have started for Elizabeth. That's really, I don't have much else to talk about. What about you? Any news or anything come across your desk that caught your eye?
Not today. Today was actually a really busy day for me, so I had a basic, but managed to get what I needed to do done. We're here. Whoop whoop.
That's right. Well, that's important. Getting your own stuff done is important. Wrestling news, not important. World news, not even that important. Personal news, that's the only important thing. So as long as you guys could take care of your business, that's great. But luckily, it doesn't seem like there's any major wrestling news to talk about. And if you didn't get a chance and you want to, channelattitude.com, fresh episode of the Monday Locker Room. Ben Hameen and myself one more time talking about the news and notes of the day. So you can hear me talk about whatever there was to talk about with the Ayatollah himself on July 3rd as of this recording. So go ahead and check that out for other news. And I guess we can get into punching up Impact for last week's episode, if you like. I would like.
Sure. All right.
And we've got that up on your Substack channel, which is, if you want to tell the people one more time where that is in case they wanted to follow along.
Yep, it is at HMG Brandon on Substack.
All right. So we've got, now, if I remember correctly, God, we had a lot of work to do about last episode. And the previous Punching Up Impact definitely sent things branching off in some possible different directions that probably would not have been reflected on their episode last week. So let's see where we end up at the end of this one.
Okay, so I did base this one off of this week's episode, but it did get quite a bit of a chopping job done to it.
Ooh, choppy. Hopefully there was no shrinkage when the lights go out this time.
So it's okay. John Wayne Bobbitt helped me out.
Oh, okay. All right. That's good.
All right, so we open with a recap of last week's show. We got our intro, Pyro and Ballyhoo. We go to the announce table, and they run down tonight's card and give thoughts on the current stories and angles. And we get an in-ring with Alex Shelley, comes out with no music in entrance, heads straight to the ring and grabs the microphone, cuts promo on Aldis about how Aldis shook his hand, looked him in the eye, and said he respected him before he blasted him in the face with the world title. Says he wants Aldis to come to the ring and face him. Jimmy Jacobs comes out and tells Shelley that Aldis will arrive on his time. Shelley lays out Jacobs, says he'll wait in the parking lot all night if he has to. Shelley grabs a chair, heads out to the parking lot, picks up a pipe, sits in the chair to wait for Aldis to arrive. So basically, that's our hook for the show.
The old pipe chair, huh? Mm-hmm. All right.
And go to our first commercial break. Come back to the parking lot. Alex Shelley's still there. Chris Sabin comes to talk to him about what he's doing, asks him if he wants help or backup. Alex declines, says he's not going to put up with the level of disrespect shown by Aldis after finally becoming champion. Then we go to the locker room with Eddie Edwards and Frankie Kazarian. Basically plays out the same as it did on the show. Then we go to our first match, OVE versus Myers and Good Hands. Myers music and entrance. Myers and Good Hands do a pre-match promo that's not dumb and not the usual cheesy rag on the city. Something more creative. OVE music and entrance. Match goes like it did on the show with Moose interfering.
Okay, all right.
And then we go backstage with Dyson Swinger and the referee Daniel Spencer. And it basically goes the same way as it did on the show, except we do not have Swinger on camera giving them the cues.
Okay.
And then we go to backstage. OVE and Swan plays out like it did on the show with Swan joining up with OVE. Match 2. Dango versus Googer. Recap of interaction between Dango and Googer. Dango music and entrance. Googer music and entrance. Dango over Dirty. Googer snaps and attacks Dango after the match.
Okay. Do we have an idea what that finish is? How's he gonna? Is he gonna like what? Get a handful of trunks or?
Let's say a handful of trunks.
Okay,
It goes for the gargoyle spear, slips him, rolls him up.
gotcha.
And we
Scott
go
Woodford asking if we have any muffins tonight. Not yet. Actually, I don't have any with me, even if I needed them. But I am old and I'm hurt and I'm fucking tired and I work with fucking children. Well, not branded, but it's just a figure of speech. Don't worry about it.
All right, and then we go on to our second commercial break. Come back to backstage with Gia and Scott D'Amore, and that plays out like it did on the show, that interview. And we cut out all those packages and those recaps of him spearing Bully Ray because, come on, do we really need to see 2 replays of that?
Oh, I can't wait to see what you do to this week's episode then.
All right, and then we're back in the parking lot with Alex Shelley. Gia approaches Shelley, asks him how long he plans to wait. Alex says he'll wait all night if he has to.
I'll wait all night for Gia if she'll approach me. Yeah.
I would too, but then I don't think Ace Austin would appreciate it.
Who cares what he appreciates?
Then you go to match 3, Gresham and Bailey versus the Design. The Design music and entrance, Gresham music and entrance, Bailey music and entrance. Gresham and Bailey over after botch interference from Diener that will make way more sense than what they did. Say like, we'll do a ref bump. He Angels holds him, holds Gresham ducks, Angels gets hit, goes down, 1, 2, 3.
Right.
And then still show there's still some competitiveness. Sorry, trying to go a little too fast here. I apologize. And then we still show that there's still some competitiveness between Gresham and Bailey. Keep that open-ended just in case we want to go back to that.
Yeah, it's always good to keep that. Even if you don't ever go back to it, it doesn't mean it wouldn't exist, So.
Then we do the replay of BTI of Jody Threat versus Nevaeh. Then we go to backstage, and we redo this one a little bit where Threat gives Nevaeh pointers and tips on what she could have done differently, with Nevaeh thanking Threat, and they hug to show mutual respect before Threat leaves the shot. Death Dolls enter the shot, and Nevaeh recognizes them as their past selves. There's confusion as the Death Dolls pretend not to know what she's talking about. And then all of a sudden, Death Dolls show facial expressions that something in them has triggered about their past selves and memories. They brush it off and decide this should be their next quest to figure out what that was, and they invite Nevaeh to come along since she obviously knows what's going on.
All right. I was wondering about that. Like, I was wondering if you were going to keep that interaction between Threat and Nevaeh somewhat intact. Because the way they did it is pretty, I don't know, could have left it out. I don't think you really needed it. The whole point was just for her to interact with the Death Dolls. And they need to expose the business and make a commentary on indie workers and social media shit. You know what I mean?
But there's still a kayfabe way you can do that where she's like, played that out that way.
Right. Yeah. If you're going to do it, there's a way to do it. And yeah, that would be a better way for sure.
Okay, where are we at? And then we go to our third commercial break. Then we come backstage with Gia and Trinity. This one plays out like it did on the show. Match 4, Taylor Wilde versus Killer Kelly. Wilde music and entrance, Kelly music and entrance. And the match goes like it did on the show with Masha running out to save Kelly and show her respect. And then we get a new backstage segment with Bully Ray and Macklin where they run down Eddie Edwards and Kazarian as they get ready for their match. And talk about what they're going to do to PCO and D'Amore at Slammiversary. And we go to a brand new pre-tape of Shaw and Company in Trinity's home city. They visit locations that Trinity visits a lot, and they start trouble until police get called and they have to leave.
Those damn troublemakers.
And then we go to our fourth commercial break. Then we go to our flashback of Nick Aldis turning heel and winning the TNA World title. And then we cut to another shot of Alex Shelley in the parking lot as he starts getting frustrated and just hitting whatever he can that he gets that's nearby him.
Eating it?
Oh, hitting it. I apologize.
Well, I'm just if we're talking about Eddie Edwards here.
Oh, that's true. Or Tommy Dreamer.
Yeah, I'm just assuming that anything is fair game and could be inhaled at any moment. That's what happened to the muffins, Scott Woodford. So,
All right, and then we go to an interview with Gia and Deanna, talk about Shaw and Company's actions, and they talk about how Deanna plans on dimming Shaw's spotlight permanently in Australia.
all right.
Because the whole gimmick is trying to get in the spotlight, trying to get the spotlight. Well, you know what? I'm shutting that shit down.
That's right. Turn off the lights. Hashtag turn off the lights, guys.
Like I did that.
Labra says Eddie is the Kirby of Impact.
And then we go to match 5, Joe Hendry versus Yuya Uemura. Yuya music and entrance, Hendry music and entrance. Match goes like on its show, just shorter. Kenny came out for commentary and does his fake respect to Hendry again. Then we go to our 5th and final commercial break. Come back with a New Japan hype video. Then cut to the announce desk, hype the card for next week's show. Edwards and Kazarian versus Bully and Macklin. Bully music and entrance, Macklin music and entrance, Edwards music and entrance, Kazarian music and entrance. A shorter version of match that was on the show, except this time Macklin actually ducks a super kick, and it looks like it was an accident.
Okay.
And as Macklin and Bully celebrate their win, the announcers start yelling that there's a commotion in the parking lot. We cut to the parking lot. Shelley and Aldous are fighting. Shelley swings his weapon, swings with pipe at Aldous and misses, and Aldous gets the better of him. Shelley tries to fight back from underneath, but it ends with Aldous slamming Shelley on the hood of a car, and the show fades with Aldous taunting Shelley.
Okay. Do we know whose car it is?
Let's say Shelley's.
All right. If not his, maybe it could be some jalopy or something that Swinger's driving.
Dude, that's even better. Swinger's car. I like that. That's even better. That is even
my
better.
car, Daddy. Yeah. It's probably something like that. Yeah, well, you know. It's a fantasy world. We can make it whatever car we want anytime we want, and we reserve the right to change our minds. All right. So yeah, I guess this was largely the same episode with some important tweaks here and there. But either way, well, we've got another episode to deal with this week, so I do not envy this task that you've given yourself. I'll tell you what, as long as they keep doing these kind of things, if I had given myself the task of punching it up every week, I think most of my punch ups would just be like throws hands up, happens just like it did on the show. It's like I don't know.
Give it the old Vince McMahon shred-o-matic.
Pretty much. I would be too tired to even shred it up. I just crumple it. I don't know. But yeah, so let's get right into it. This was the Impact for what, June 29th?
Yes, sir.
And we open with Trey Miguel versus Chris Sabin. I guess, is this for the X Division Championship? Like, is it on the line? I didn't even remember.
I don't even think they mentioned if it was or not. And as we find out, it didn't even matter.
It didn't matter. I'll tell you one thing that everybody wants to know. Yes, Trey Miguel did get an F on his entrance tag again. He just either he's too slow, too fast, just can't get it right. I don't know. But at this point, he should just come out and like hold up like an imaginary spray can, just hold it stationary and let the thing do it on its own.
Or you stand there and shake it up, and as it's coming up on the screen.
Yeah,
just something.
Yeah, you're not gonna like you could look at it as like, well, this is a pose I can do regardless, because some places you go, if you go to some house show somewhere, you're not going to have the screen set up, you're not going to have the entrance packages, so you can just do the same pose while the thing plays out. Or if there is no screen, you can just hold that pose when you come out, but you're never in time with your entrance. So I don't think he's ever done it perfectly once in the entire years that we've been covering it. So yeah, just drop it, kid. Just find a new pose that you can strike and stand there, let it play out, then turn around, So that'd be my thing. But what do I know? Who cares? And speaking of who cares, this match. I mean, I'm not going to watch this shit. Are you serious? The only part that matters is that at the end, Zachary Wentz runs in. The old Zachary Wentz, the old, the other guy from the Rascals, the other guy in the tag team with Wesley and NXT that got fired because, you know, he was alleged to be abusive and a picture was posted of him with a Hitler mustache and all this other stuff. You know, here he is. He does his run in and I guess cost Trey Miguel the X Division Championship or not, whatever it is. And then Alex Shelley runs in and they both run off. So once the odds are even, the heels scatter and that's that. So the big return. And now he's with Gigi. So those two can have each other. What do you think of the big return here? Zachary Wentz, the Rascals reunited, 2/3 of them anyway.
I don't know. The way this was set up, it didn't make any sense. Like, wouldn't it have made more sense for him to run in after the match is over and Saban went over?
Probably.
And then
I mean, you know you ain't beating Chris Saban, so it's not like, I mean, you're not beating him. Sorry. It's just not going to happen unless it does happen. But it usually doesn't happen. So, I mean.
And then they waited 10 minutes into the match to start telling the story of working Trey's knees and legs. Isn't that something you want to kind of establish very early on?
Yeah, as a babyface. Let me cripple the high-flying heel. 10 minutes in. Well, you know, Goldberg was never big on working body parts, really. So.
And I was keep thinking back to Bret Hart, like how would he, you know, do his thing?
Oh, God, Brandon, nobody's thinking about Bret Hart anymore. I wish everybody was thinking about Bret Hart. They are not thinking about Bret Hart enough. You know, if everybody approached the mindset of, if I was Bret Hart in this match, then maybe we wouldn't have as much, you wouldn't have even had to punch up stuff. It's like maybe everybody would just kind of be on a similar page and a similar mindset. We know they're not going to be, thinking like that. Labra says, I actually cheer whenever Saban and Shelley got beat up. So, I mean, there is that. Yeah, are the Rascals going to be the heels in this situation? Who knows? But, oh, shit. Oh, my God. Oh, my goodness. I can't. Okay.
Nope.
Guys, hold on. Hold on. We're working here. We're working with StreamYard here. We know how StreamYard is. We know how StreamYard is, but I don't. For those of you listening on audio, you just hold your horses, guys. We have got. Uh-oh. I hear him now. Can you hear us?
I can hear you. How are ya?
Oh, my goodness. Ladies and gentlemen, joining us from a million miles away, the one and only, the great Piers Austin of Shooting the Shit Uncensored and many other things, including Impact Down Under, which happened over this weekend. And our man Pierce on night 2, he was the man with the mic, the voice of night 2 of Impact Down Under. Pierce, welcome to the Impact Attack. There was no better guest to have than you tonight.
Thank you so much, man. It's always a pleasure to talk with you guys, man. And, you know, the amount of love and respect I have for Hameen Media Group, which I think I put over with Jimmy the other night, man. Like, Ben's been a mentor of mine for 3 years, and his brand, his company, and everything you guys do, man. I love everyone over there, man. So whenever I get a chance to jump on a Hameen Media show, man, like I'm always all for it, bro.
Oh, yes. Well, this is perfect because I'll be talking about, you know, both the episodes of the show later on. But we were kind of in the middle of going over this week's episode, but I just want to, you know, first and foremost, I just wanted to, with your limited time, I don't know how much time you have, but I wanted to get your overall impressions, first of all, of how you felt the show went that you were a part of. Did you have anything to do with night 1? Like, were you there or only for night 2?
I was invited to attend night 1. and come up, but unfortunately with young children,
Sure.
it's not really possible. So I wanted my wife to be there because look, I'm gonna sound like a bit of a fucking fanboy and a mark here, but like to me, I think that that's the biggest stage I'm ever gonna really have a chance to really show the world what I can do, and I wanted my wife there. That was an important one for me to have
Mm-hmm.
there.
Mm-hmm.
So she came along. So we went to night two. My experience of how the show went, I think it went fabulously. I think it went really, really well. Where the shows were held was like regional New South Wales, so it's kind of like between Victoria and New South Wales. So it was literally a 5 hour drive from Sydney to go to these shows, and that made, like, honestly, night two was packed to the rafters. Like, it was a complete. I'm pretty sure it was a sellout crowd. There was a lot of like hardcore fans that we see on the Australian shows that come, which was like really surprising to me because like I think even in my thank you very much, Labrat. I think even in my my ultimate like at Aussie shows seeing fans, but even for me, like my ultimate fandom as a fan of professional wrestling, there's no fucking way in the world I'm driving 5 hours to go watch a show. Like, even without kids and without being married, like, I'm sorry, I couldn't do that. So the
Sure.
fans that actually drove that and traveled that and invested money in accommodation and all that sort of stuff, like, it's not cheap to go away here in Australia, believe me. So those guys, man, like, that support was truly humbling. You know, and also, like, I don't want to go into too much detail, but like a few days prior to that event, like the Sunday prior, I had a friend of mine pass away, which kind of had me a little bit like emotional leading up into that week, where like I even thought about pulling out of the show, just because I didn't think my head was there. Like, I canceled podcasts that I was going to do live that week, and luckily I had shit I could drop that were pre-recorded because I didn't really feel. You know what I mean? Like, you go through
Of
something
course.
like that and you can't really fathom when something like that unexpectedly happens in your life. And, you know, like my friend, one of my other friends said, no, he would be pissed if you gave this opportunity up. Like, you have to go
Yeah.
there and represent. So, you know, between me and myself, I wrote my friend who passed initials on my wrist prior to the show, and he was there with me in that ring. So that was something a little bit special that I was able to sort of send a photo to his family and just let him know that, you know, on my biggest night, you know, he's going to be in there with me every step of the way. And you know what I mean? Like I said, I'm not really a spiritual person or something like that, but that to me was just something that I did for me. No one on the show knew what I was doing, but
Right.
as far as an impact experience goes, man, like, that is so, that was on another level. Like, that was intimidating, humbling, but thank you very much. You know, it was humbling, it was intimidating, but man, I just went in there with the confidence and swagger that I have, bro, and just tried my best to do as best as I could to impress. Scott Demore was really, really cool. He was making jokes before the show, just like, you know what I mean? I think you could see that like some of the Australian people were a little bit like nervous, like as far as like from the production side of things, like referees
Yeah.
and stuff, because this is a big stage for them as well. And you know, for us, we you know, honestly, like, I feel like, you know, the Australians, like the referees and stuff like that, we just didn't want to fuck anything up, right? So
Yeah.
this was a huge opportunity. So we wanted to go in there and just fucking deliver. Sorry to swear. Yeah,
No, please fucking swear.
yeah, no, we just wanted to go in there and deliver like what we could do in the best possible way. And ring announcing isn't the biggest part of a show. Like, people in the comments, you don't need to drop that. I know, like, it's not the biggest
Well,
role of the show, but it was my little moment, and you know, like, I felt, you know, excited to be a part of it. And when it was all done, I found a nice little quiet pub where me and my wife, the two of us, went and had a drink and were able to reflect. And, you know, like, for the most part, like, you know, having her there was a massive support, because like on the drive down there, I'm like, I don't belong here. Like, what am I doing here? Like, this is, and she just said, she basically said, shut the fuck up. Like, you've busted your ass for these opportunities. You've proven to the world what you are capable of. And if you weren't what they wanted, then you would not be here. Like, as simple as that. So that was to have her give me that little shot of the arm right before I went into the venue, that to me was, so important to have her there. You know what I mean, man? Like I said, bro, I'm sounding fucking lame and shit, I know, but
No, man, no, because look, I'm not married to you, but I would have said the same thing. I would marry you, but I'm not. But I'm just saying, I would have said the same thing because it's like, well, who the fuck is anybody until they do something? You know what I mean? Like, this is one of those things. It's like, this is what they wanted you to do, like you said. I did want to ask, just you can just give me the short version of it, but how this came about for you. Like as far as the connections and saying, oh yeah, Piers Austin would be great for this. How did this come across your desk?
Well, a lot of people started tagging me and stuff. Like Matt Schaefer, who Matt Schaefer Gage, I think it is.
MSG, we call him here.
MSG. So MSG is someone I've known for a few years through HMG and stuff, and he was tagging me and stuff. Other fans were tagging me and stuff from around the world that have watched and supported my podcast. Pardon me. And, like the Oceania Pro Wrestling, which is the company that's sort of working with Impact.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that too, but yeah.
Yeah, so they started following me on Instagram a few months ago, and we exchanged a couple little messages here and there, and then it was like, hey, we're going to send you an email. Like, would you be available for the dates that Impact are in Australia? And I'm like, yeah, man. Yeah, that should be cool. And they came.
That's an inside joke. Don't worry about that, Piers.
Yeah, and so they basically. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. Where was I?
Yeah, I was just after everybody tagged you and you got sort of hooked in with Oceania Pro.
Yes, I got in there. They asked me if I was available, and I was like, yeah, for sure. They came back and they said, okay, cool, we want you for night 2. I was a little bit bummed. I felt like, hey, man, you could have given me like 3 days. I reckon I could have gone in there and rocked that shit. But they want to give a lot of people opportunities, which I get, so I can't be selfish. But I actually was booked for another promotion on Saturday night, which I had to pull out, which is something I've never done. And it was actually
terrible. It's terrible to be in that position, man, because that's like a thing in wrestling. It's like an etiquette thing, like hopefully they understand, but you have to. Everybody acts like it's the wrong thing to do, but everybody would do it if they have a bigger opportunity. So don't worry too much about that.
Well, it's funny. My boy Vinny Vane, who I manage, and Banks, so I'm managing this stable. He was actually I'm gonna pull down the fourth wall, but he was actually winning the main title of that promotion and being the first ever double champ. And me as his manager wasn't there. Our heater, our quote unquote bodyguard, he also had to pull out of the show. So it was like, oh fuck. Sorry, man. Like the heel has to go and actually win a title without his stable there. But he was understanding of it. The promoter got it. He was like, dude, like this is fucking huge. Like, no, don't. Like, you're an idiot if you don't.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. Like, that's where like it was just all support and love from everybody, man. Which is really cool to have, man. Like, it was good to see that it was able to impact. No pun intended.
Yes. Well, so maybe pun intended. Yeah.
So
I want to. Well, there was a couple things I wanted to ask too. First off, I want to say I thought you did a great job. Like I watched the show, and even if I wasn't as invested in some of the matches, I made sure to like at the beginning and the end, I was like, I'm going to listen to Piers announce this guy. So I made sure to catch all that. And I, not just saying it because I know you, but I think you did an excellent job as a ring announcer. Now, I also know because I have ears that maybe other people don't hear. I know there's one or two things that you probably wish you had back, but overall, like, and you know what they are. I'm not going to bust you out here, but you know what they are. But overall, I think, like you said, the swagger that you had, you brought the energy to the show. It's, I know you're being humble and saying like, it's just a ring announcer, but a terrible ring announcer is noticeable too, and a good one really hypes it. It's important. It's part of the entrance. It's like if you don't have a good ring announcer, it's like, well, why have music? Why have pyro? Why have anything that you have in an entrance if it's gonna just be half-assed? So you were a very important element to that show, noticeably better than. Forgive me, I didn't remember the person that was doing night 1, for example, but I certainly noticed you. So that was, I wanted to say that right off the bat. But because you are involved in wrestling in so many capacities, whether it's behind the scenes, in front of the camera, all these things, you get to be at ringside for a lot of events. So you know what wrestling is, you've seen it. And so my question is, being there and watching the show from that vantage point, who are some talents that stood out to you when you were when they came out and you were like, oh, this is definitely somebody, like what, who gave you that feeling like, oh man, I want to, I want to do something with this person. Like they had a presence. Who on the show would you say, if you could name some names?
I think the ABC and the Motor City Machine Guns, like that during that match, like after I did the intro, like, bro, I remember like, fuck, back in 2009, 2008, before I was anywhere near the business, like I was a fan of Impact Wrestling around that time and seeing the Motor City Machine Guns, man. And like, bro, I really enjoyed their work. You know what I mean? And I'm sitting there going like, fuck, this is 2023, right? And I'm like, back in the day, I was watching Motor City Machine Guns do their thing in the X Division, in the tag, and all that sort of stuff. And I'm like, and I just got to introduce it, man. Like what the fuck? Like that, you know what I mean? Like that realization of it happening.
Yes.
But like, wasn't Pierce Night 2? The fucking Night 1 guy made me wish my oxygen dropped more. Wow. Yeah, I was Night 2, man. Thank you. Yeah, like it was. There was a lot of Aussies on the show as well. Like, and that was the fact that the Australians got a chance to be on that show and showcase. Like, to me, the Velocities versus the Natural Classics, great match. The Velocities are guys that I've known for the past 3 years, and anytime I'm on a show with them or around them, it's I always enjoy having a quick chat with them. They're always just very humble boys, very lovely boys. I feel like the four of them, the Classics and the Velocities, went out there and really, showed them what they're able to do. They tore their house down with that, the style that they do, man. They stuck to what got them to the dance. They stuck to what got them to the game. And I feel like they really showcased really, really well there. And overall, I think it was just,
Okay.
I'm glad I'm not getting roasted up in this bitch today. Bro,
No, like, of course not.
I just feel like overall, like I feel like there was a lot of incredible talent there that I got to see. I really enjoyed Eddie Edwards versus the Business Slex, which the Business Slex was a guy who was signed to Ring of Honor. Then the pandemic, he got released and stuff like that. So for some of these Aussie guys, like, it was actually my first time getting to meet them in person, you know what I mean, which was kind of cool as well. So,
oh, really? Because I figured you would maybe come across a guy like Slex in the past at some point.
Never really had an interaction with him. Never had him on the podcast. That was the first time we got to meet each other prior to the show. And yeah, nice, really nice dude, man. I really like Slex.
Yeah, cool entrance too. Speaking of talking about the importance of entrance, I like his song. I like his video. I've been knowing about that guy for some years now. So I was like, well, of course you're going to have Slex on the show if you're going to do a show in Australia. I just seemed like that would be a no-brainer, right? But he had a match on night 1 with forgive me, I can't remember the name.
Robbie Eagle?
I have it written down. It was, let me see here. But anyway, yeah, there's like, he's the one guy that I had definitely heard of before. Adam Brooks is the guy. That's who.
Brooksy, yeah, the loose.
Yeah, he had the match with Robbie Eagles the night you were there, and I believe that's the match you didn't announce, right? They had like a lady.
Yeah, so they had a lady. She introduced one match in night 1, and then one match in night 2, and then she did the Australian showcase. So she was someone that came from like the baseball game, and the live events in that. So she was kind of like mainly just sort of shadowing me around on night 2, and like I had no problem with that, man. Like, far out, dude. Like, I'm happy to help anyone and give time to anyone. So she sat there. She asked a lot of questions with me, like, hey, what do you think we should do? Like, how do you think I should do this? Should I say this? What do you think I should say here? And I was just like, look, you know what I mean? Like, you were here on night 1. You know what I mean? So you saw like, you know what I mean? Like on every show, there's things that go wrong. Like that's just how it goes. No matter how perfect the show can be, there's always these little things. I said you're going to notice them. You're going to know what happened in night one. You tell me where did things fall down? And she was appreciative, man. She was like, "Thank you so much. You were so nice. Like you really settled my nerves." You know, like I was getting like, "You better not fuck this up from people," but you were like, but I just was like, "Look, let's just go out there and have fun. Let's just go out there, do our thing." Because if you go out there with that, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, you're gonna fuck up even more. You know what I mean? You're gonna stumble your words. So I was saying, let's just. I was shitting myself the whole time, but I was like, you know what? Fuck, I'm gonna go out there and have fun. They can say what, you know, whatever. I'll get the feedback at the end of the show. You know, and that was that. So, you know, the only thing was at the start of it, they sent us out a few minutes early before we went live on Fight TV, and they're like, "Yeah, go out there, make an announcement, and stuff like that." I'm like, "Yeah," so blah, blah, blah. And then it was like in my headset, "You got 4 more minutes from Scott Demore. You got 4 more minutes, Pierce, before we go live. Keep talking, bud." I'm like, "Yeah." So who's gonna make some noise tonight? It's gonna be, and I'm like, just, like on the fly, and then I do finish that, and I stop talking for a second. You still got 2.5 more minutes there, pal. And I'm like, oh. And like the girl I'm with, she's like, I'm sitting there like, just fuck. Like, so what match are you excited to see? And she's like,
Yeah, that's a rib. That's straight up a rib, Pierce. You got ribbed. Good rib.
Massively. Like even like a couple of the boys, like a couple of the wrestlers, like one of them said, like, "Man, that was an ultimate work at the beginning of that." And I'm like, he's like, "You got stitched up," and I'm like, whatever, man. Look, it's a learning thing. And honestly, it was just I spoke to a veteran who's in the business, a friend of mine here, Zuko, and you know, and he told me the same sort of thing, that how I was feeling. It's like, man, when I went over to the US and I was working guys like Moxley and Chris Brothers and fucking all these sort of guys like Danielson and stuff like that. And he's like, I thought I didn't belong. And he said, but the more I stuck around and the longer I was there, I was like, fuck yeah, I belong. You don't fucking belong. And in my mind, it was like, that's what I was going through the whole time, like that imposter syndrome of like, it's just little old, you know what I mean? Like, you know me, bro. Like, I don't walk around and beat my chest and like I'm the fucking man of this place and shit like that. And I'm just a humble dude, bro, who's a fat little Aussie podcaster who just wanted to do a good job and make sure I didn't, just did everyone proud of what I was there to do, man. You know, like,
yeah. Well, I think you did. I truly think you did. Brandon, did you have anything you wanted to ask or any other things you wanted to know? No?
No, it's like a lot of that is because like, I've been part of shows before, and it's like, but nothing like this though.
Yeah, it was a huge thing. I want to say too, like, the OPW, like Oceania Pro Wrestling, right? It seemed like, they were establishing titles like this weekend. Like, so this is a new promotion basically opening up pretty soon, or they're just now getting around to the title belts. I mean, basically my point is, what can you tell us about this company that we can look out for in the future?
I think this company is going to be working with a lot of international brands. So companies about coming out and performing. It's still very new. So the guy who runs it, we had a brief chat after the show. He was the guy who booked me for it. So he was really, really, really happy. He was overly excited with what I did. And he just said, "Look, I'm gonna call you in the next couple of weeks. I've got a lot of stuff coming up." And he goes, "I want you for some stuff." So it's just how it's gonna go down. And like I said, to be able to, like, I was on an earpiece the whole night, so I could hear the communication from Scott Demore, who was the producer, running the entire show, and he was talking constantly from cameras to referees. At points he was talking to me at certain points as well, to timekeepers. And as I said, it was just eye-opening. So you can go from and to me it's like you go from like working indies and then you have an experience like this, which is like night and day because of the budget, right? Because like Impact Wrestling has, like, man, that was probably, I don't even want to guess what the budget is, but you compare it to an indie show, it's like it's night and day. You know what I mean? Like the catering backstage is like at an indie show, there may be some water and a couple of Cokes you can grab, or maybe a cold piece of pizza. You know what I mean? But like this was like, you know, really at a, you know, like full catering there for everyone. Yeah, like I said, man, I was just, man, look at this. This is fucking wild. You know what I mean? Like I was a deer in headlights probably for a couple of moments, and even the first match I announced, the first people, like the first match I introduced and was like the Velocities and the Natural Classics. And when the Velocities came out, and the Velocities are a team, as I said, I've known them for years. I know their fucking their spiel, and I'm like, introducing the team of Paris the Shield. That was the one moment, and that I was like, oh damn it. And I spoke to the boys after that. They were like, oh, we didn't even notice, dude. Like you're fine. I'm like, okay, cool. And I was like, fuck, what a dick.
Well, they were probably on the same thing. Like, okay, we got our entrance. We can't fuck this up. We got to do our pose. You know, like they're almost probably not even hearing anything. It's probably like just like the ringing in their ears of just like, okay, we got to focus on this. And so yeah, but
yeah, for real.
Yeah, that was interesting seeing those guys. But I'll talk more about them when I get to that. But yeah, man, just really, really great job. Like I said, I appreciated you being able to make this show, and I appreciated you being on that show and giving me something else to enjoy about, you know, watching this interesting, getting to see the new talents. You know, everything was really good, but I just had my eyes on Piers Austin and that ridiculous suit you were wearing. Like I was like, oh yeah, that's Piers. Did you like the suit? Yes. That suit's so good.
My wife picked it out, and I was like, I was going to go with like a maroon and black look, like maroon suit, black shirt, and maroon tie. And my wife goes, nah, baby, you go out there and be flamboyant tonight. And I was
that's
like, all
right.
So that's my flamboyant suit. Scott Demore put it over as well. He's like, man, he goes, that is a good looking suit, man. You're a good looking suit. Yeah.
So, low key flamboyant is how I would describe it to anybody who didn't see it.
Yeah, I'm not trying to steal the show, but I'm like letting you know that I'm there. But and even again, I can't put over Scott highly enough, man. Like after the show, he was very welcome. He gave me some feedback, and he was just very honest, upfront, and you know, just a very kind dude, bro. Like I said, just if it was anyone else there, like I felt like he really made the nerves settle, like just how his demeanor was before the show and even after the show. He just came up to me. He's like, "Hey, man, good work." And you know, and I said, "Okay, can I get some feedback, please?" And we sat down for 5 minutes, and he gave me, you know, some invaluable feedback, which, as an announcer, as a manager, as a commentator on the Indies, you get a little bit of feedback, but not much. So that was like really fucking valuable. And even Dave Penza like messaged me on Twitter as well and stuff like that.
That's
and
awesome.
Just like, you know, hey man, it's always an honor to hold that microphone. Congratulations, you know what I mean? And
he does a lot of the announcing for Impact, so you know that's what you're being compared to. Can you share a piece of valuable advice that Scott Demore gave you, or was that you just want to keep that to the vest?
No, I'll share it. He basically he just said, look, you there was a small fuck up. He goes, you recovered quick. He just said, you got a good voice, you look good, you present well. He said, like, it was just more like little nuances kind of thing. Yeah. Like there was nothing really like, he goes, oh yeah, like you didn't introduce, like he goes, we gave the referee a last name and you didn't introduce the referee in the main event. He's like, when you were like in that challenge, he's like, oh fuck Pierce, you forgot the referee's name. He's like, but like, he goes, it's not like you ruined the show. He's like, right. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't dire. But, like, overall, he just said, man, good job. He just had those little he said, that's just, like, little nitpicky sort of stuff. And he just goes, man, you just keep doing you, bro. Like, honestly.
Was he wearing the headset the entire time, like a shoot? Like, do you have the headset as a collar on and I'll constantly take it off?
No.
Okay,
he may have went during the show. I don't know, man.
Yeah, you were out there. You didn't see it, right?
As far as after the show, bro, like, nah, he was cool, man. He was just kicking back, enjoying a cold one. And so, but man, like honestly, the whole roster there: Deonna Purrazzo, Giselle Shaw, Eddie Edwards, fuck, who am the Machine Guns,
The Great Moose, I think the Great Moose was there as well.
You know what's funny about Moose is, like, before I even got into podcasting and seeing that shit, when my 7-year-old was like 2, he was sitting there watching Impact Wrestling and how he does the Moose gimmick, like he used to, all that. And my 2-year-old, for the longest time, would just like walk around the house when he was 2, would walk around the house going Moose.
Yep.
And I was like, I should probably go tell him that. And I'm like, nah, I don't want to look like a fucking mark. I'm just, you know what I mean? Like, it's like I literally just like spoke to him when I needed to. It was like, hey, how you doing? I'm here. Shake their hand. Frankie's there. Oh, nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
Right.
And then I just left the fuck alone, because it's like those guys on big travel days, they're in the middle of nowhere. It's fucking freezing. So I was just like, they probably don't want to talk to me. So I was just like, hi, how you doing? I'm Pierce. Shook everyone's hand. Right, I need your shit. What do you want me to say? Done. Left them alone.
Very familiar with that feeling. I'm very familiar with that feeling, where you're in a professional capacity, but you're worried about what they think about you at their level, which they're all probably cool with it, but in your mind, you're just like,
bro, they probably don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? But like, I'm not the one like at shows to walk around and go, hey man, can you get a photo?
Yeah, exactly. No, not that.
That's not me. I'm never.
Now, if you run into them at 3 separate occasions, on the 3rd time, maybe you can bring up your 2-year-old with the Moose thing. But if it's the first handshake, you probably want to just hold that one.
Like, you know what? Like, bro, like I've spoken to enough wrestlers over my year, like wrestlers, you know, from all sorts of levels and whatever, and. You know what I mean? Like, I know the deal. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
They don't really want to fucking hear the story. Like, okay. Like, I'm sure he would have gone, oh, cool, man. Yeah. That's really cute. Whatever and whatever. You know what I mean? Like, so
right.
Why be fucking awkward and weird?
Exactly. Yeah. That's going to come into play too, because if, when and if the next time it come around, they're going to be looking for a ring announcer. They're going to maybe looking for more than a ring announcer. And then no one will be thinking, hey, that's that guy that was running around talking about his 2-year-old all day. So you'll be in good shape setting yourself up for the next one. That's hopefully that level of professionalism is something that people that are on the indies now can, kind of take that and think about the future. Like, you never know who you're going to see on the way up, on the way down, that's going to remember that, oh, that's that guy, so just to try not to mark out when you're back there. But that's, that. I mean, you're already been doing this for a minute. You get the deal.
100%, bro. And even on the indie level, there's shows that you're going to go at where, like, you're a big fish in a small pond, man. And I did that the week before, and I had, like, a lot of, guys that were on that lower level coming up to me and go, oh, I love the podcast, man. Can you get me on? Oh, yeah, okay, cool, bro. Shake hands. But you're cool with people, man, because, like, the same, the ass that my dad used to tell me a thing, be careful of the toes you step on today, because they may be connected to the ass you may have to kiss tomorrow. And that's kind of like my motto, where I was just like, bro, I just be cool with everyone. I don't give a fuck where you are on the card or what level you're at on any show. Man, you're on a show where I'm on a show. I'm nothing special. Like, so I'm going to be cool with everybody. Who am I? My shit stinks like everybody else.
Yeah, but you do have that cool suit. So, well, I'll let you go, but thank you so much for coming on here and talking to us. Put over anything you want the people to know about, any projects you got coming up, any other things, just let everybody know right now.
Hey, Shooting the Shit Uncensored. You can find it on YouTube and all podcast platforms, on the Piers Austin YouTube channel and all Piers Austin podcast platforms. Just search Piers Austin. It'll come up. You can follow me on Twitter at Piers Austin, Instagram at the Piers Austin, to keep up to date with all the crazy shit that I'm doing.
Yes, yeah, and it's crazy. So you're gonna want to keep up with it. Yeah, you'll even find an episode of Shooting the Shit Uncensored with yours truly if you look hard enough. So check that out if you haven't done that. We had a blast, I thought. So we'll have to hook it up for round 2 one of these days. But yeah, Pierce, thanks a lot, man. Thanks for talking to us, and have a great day, brother.
Anytime for you boys, man. Anytime. Appreciate it, man. Love you guys, and we'll talk soon.
Peace. All right. Peace.
Good seeing you, man.
There you go. The legendary The Piers Austin has been unlocked. And yeah, man, like I said, he did a great job. We'll talk more about we'll talk more about that because I'll run over the shows real quick. I'm not going to go into too deep a detail, but I watched both the shows, and I'll just give little notes that people might find interesting that didn't bother to watch. So we'll get to that. Now, where were we? I think we were just right at the beginning of our episode of Impact here. After we're about to get to the Rascals doing a promo. Unfortunately, they are in the lights. Brandon, they are back in the lights. So. That's the bad news. The good news is I think that was the only lights that was on this episode. So, we threw it for the Rascals. But anyway, they're basically saying a bunch of stuff like talking about you abandoned us. They're talking about a lot of abandonment issues, I think. I wasn't really listening to what they were saying because I really don't give a shit about these guys. I'm just going to be honest. No offense to them. I did notice too, and this is going to sound so petty, but damn it, I'm just trying to be entertaining, guys. Okay, I just want to make you guys laugh. But like, you look at Trey Miguel's haircut, and he's clearly like he goes to the barber and he gets his shit lined up, and the fade is like touched up and everything, and he's just he's bald in the middle. It's like, dude, just cut your hair. It's if just accept it like I have, like so many others have. Just I don't try to grow it out like so it's going to be sticking up around the sides and then just have this bald patch in the middle. When it's time, it's time. It's no big deal. You're already Ricochet accepted it. You're trying to be Ricochet. You're a tiny budget Ricochet. You can just you can either go with the full head shave or at least just shave your head down to like the lowest part that your hair grows now, I think. So, that's what I have to say about that. Brandon, what'd you think of this promo?
It was like, what did we accomplish other than we're here and we're back? Like, what is your intentions? And they mentioned that the whole match that we just had didn't mean anything. So why did the match even happen in the first place if it was a setup for Wentz to come back? That's basically what he said it was.
Yeah, and it's also this goes to my thing that I always talk about with these logic details, right? It's like, okay, so this guy was sitting around, even if you just look at these, like these are all live episodes. So you mean everybody was just sitting around and this guy just showed up, did a run-in, and it's cool to be on camera doing a promo now? Which means, well, if that's not the case, that means they must have already worked out a deal and re-signed him. So he was already there and re-signed, and Trey Miguel wouldn't have known about that because he looked pretty surprised to see him when he got there. So they were kayfabing Trey Miguel that his old partner got... Like, if you're looking at this shit like it's real, the way they do these surprise appearances and shit doesn't make sense. I'm surprised he didn't have, like, his own full music and entrance on this. But at least they didn't do that. But they have in the past. Like, oh, by the way, this guy that looks like he's just spontaneously arriving, but he's got his music and his package and his new merch t-shirt and all this stuff, like... But even if you take it a step further than that, we know these episodes were all taped in one location. So you mean he sat around for 3 weeks worth of TV shows and didn't do anything, only to run in partway through the last match and the last set of tapings before you guys flew to Australia? Like, is that what you're telling me? I just wish people would like stop with this extra phony bullshit, I mean, but what can I say? It's never going to happen.
Nope.
Deanna's out for commentary on Trinity versus Jay Vidal. Jay Vidal taps out to the Starstruck. And then afterwards, when they kick the shit out of Trinity, Deanna's taking her time to get off the commentary desk and help out. And... I guess that makes sense because she just has to defend her title. She doesn't necessarily want to help, but, being the newly christened babyface that Deonna Purrazzo is, she can't just sit around and do nothing. So eventually she wanders into the ring and they all scatter with their half-hearted attempt at a save. They're pretty sure they still had the numbers advantage and didn't have to go anywhere, but that's fine. So
and also the biggest one in their group too. Out of everybody in there.
Yeah, Savannah Evans untouched the entire time, but she's got to take a powder as soon as Deonna lazily gets in the ring. So I'm not sure about that. I don't know. What do you think? Was that the right business?
No, that did not make any sense at all.
Yeah,
like if they're going to do it that way, what they could have done was had them the three of them jump Deanna as well and leave Deanna and Trinity laying, and then have Trinity say it's your fault we took that beating because you took your sweet time getting in there.
Yeah, exactly. Well, see if they ever address it. Any other thoughts on the match itself or any of the surrounding business?
Could have went shorter to get the business it needed to done. But one thing I noticed was Trinity got in a huge reaction. I mean, crowd was hot for her.
Yep. Well,
So there's definitely something there.
well, they treat her like a star since she's got there. There's literal stars all over her entrance and her outfits and everything. And she is one of the higher profile gets from the other companies. So it makes sense. You know, you're going to get a lot of, I don't want to say a lot, but certainly some segment of the fans are only watching and because they're following her there, you know? So hopefully Impact does enough to keep those fans around. So next we get Moose, the wrestling god. Even him just sitting there is cool. He's just like sitting in a chair in a room. And you're just like, I don't know what he's doing, but it's cool. And then Brian Myers comes in and he's like, you know, hey, Moose, hey, buddy, hey, thanks for getting the most professional wrestling gods together. And he's saying, yeah, we're cool and everything like that. And then he looks at the good hands and he's like, just one thing, you know, basically he says, ditch the dead weight. That's the ultimatum from Moose. Ditch the dead weight. And Brian Myers doesn't seem to have a problem with that. He'll be happy to ditch the dead weight. So yeah, the good hands are sort of SOL here. What do you think about that?
I thought they could have actually played a decent role as kind of like Moose and Brian's knockaround guys.
Yeah.
Like Moose could have been a real dick to them. Like you could have got some good material out of that.
Yeah, I suppose you could have. And maybe we still will. We don't know. Because Brian Myers seemed to be like trying to like comfort them. Like, this is temporary. This is temporary. Don't worry about it. So we may see them like trying to sneak around and hang around or something like that. They may end up doing something with that. But yeah. Well, we'll see. But that's Moose. I don't think we get any more Moose, do we?
Unfortunately,
that's it for Moose here.
no, sadly.
Fuck. God damn it. All right, well, anyway. So apparently Swinger got a victory, and the referee comes back and tells Zicky Dice that they reviewed the tape and that the victory is overturned. So this would be a first for Impact Wrestling, paying attention to what a referee does in the match. So my thing was, I didn't see this happen in the first place. Did I miss something? I did not see this.
I think it was on BTI.
They didn't even show, like on my feed, maybe it got cut. They didn't even show the BTI clip. So I didn't see it. Did they show it? Did anybody that saw this, did they see any clips of this?
Yeah,
I missed it completely.
Yeah, because they showed the clip of, I forgot how it went down, but Swinger got the win with a Dice fast count.
Okay. Who did he get a win over?
Just some job guy they brought in.
Some job guy?
I forgot. I don't mean to say it like that, but I just don't remember his name.
Yeah. Well, that's fine. That's probably the point. But yeah, so that's one of the downfalls of having to watch illicit feeds. You know, is sometimes if their editing job and uploading misses certain things, then you know I'm not able to see it. So I didn't see this. Jerome saying that this is crap. We need more Moose, damn it, and he's right. Who am I to disagree with the great Jerome Hall? But I will say that you know, more Moose is never a bad thing. However, yeah, I can't comment on what actually went down because I certainly didn't watch BTI and I didn't even see the clip. So for me, this was a little bit confusing, but I mean, I can put it together. I seem to know what was going on, and we knew this was going to happen anyway. Like, even if this never happened, this is what we would have wrote as the first thing that happens. It's like he tries to screw some job guy out of a match in Swingers, and it's going to get overturned. Like, because they admitted on camera that that's exactly what they were trying to do. So why wouldn't the referees be watching it for just that reason?
Yep, they already shown they can't be trusted. We got to keep an eye on them.
That's right. All right. So speaking of keeping an eye on, we get the debut of the bad child Leo Rush. And he's going to take on some guy named Jack Price, who they tried to tell me was a runner-up in Gut Check from last year. And I'm like, who cares? You might as well not even say that. It doesn't matter. Just say his name's Jack Price, the next guy that Swinger's going to try to get a victory over. But anyway, yeah, Leo Rush making his debut. Obviously a heel. Has not been a heel in a while. In New Japan, he's in the Chaos faction, involved with them, and he's a clear babyface. And everything that he's been doing over there has been pretty good. I've been a fan of Leo Rush for a while, but not for the reasons you guys might think. What did you see here in this debut with Leo Rush? What was the impression that he made on you?
I just could not get over the fact this is the third match in a row we had where people went to the outside and was doing stuff.
Oh, yeah. Well, come on. Look, that's the least of our complaints now. The outside of the ring is as much a part of the ring as the ring now. That's just the deal.
I honestly didn't get anything from him. He was just, to me, it felt like another dude doing flippies.
Yeah. I agree with that assessment based on this match, yes. But,
I mean, like
yeah,
you said, yeah, I'm sure like the other stuff that he's done has been a lot more character driven. He's been shown a lot more, but here, this was not a very good way to intro him.
No, I don't know. It's I guess the more important thing was the business that would happen later, but it was I think one of Leo Rush's strengths is, like, as a heel, he's very convincing with his attitude. However, his normal strength, which is speed, like when you watch Leo Rush, he's one of the fastest people in the entire pro wrestling industry, like foot speed wise. He's just so fast. He's not as sure-footed now as he's getting older. He used to be the 24-year-old piece of gold. Now he's like almost the 30-year-old piece of gold, but he's getting up there, and he's not as sure-footed as he used to be, as it seems like at times, but still incredibly blazing fast. And yes, he does do a lot of flips and everything. However, that doesn't necessarily lend itself to being a heel as much of the time. But I've seen him work matches as a heel in the past during his stint in 205 Live in WWE, where I was just like, wow, I'm blown away by this kid. He looked menacing, even though he's tiny. He's like the size of a small, he really is a bad child. He's incredibly tiny, not only in height, but just in overall stature. And, but when he's Sonic. He was playing, like, when he was playing a heel at certain times during his 205 Live run, he was working like he was 6'3", 240, where it wasn't about doing flips, but he would like punch a guy and let the guy sell it. And he had this look on his face that I thought was like, did this guy take liberties on Leo and he's getting a receipt now? Like that's how good he was in the character. If he can ever get back to that, only problem is it's difficult when, again, he can't help being as small as he is. There's nothing he can do about it. It doesn't matter how many steroids he gets on or anything, because that's not going to help his style anyway. But he can't grow any taller or anything. So it just kind of sucks. I feel like at this stage, he's really good as a babyface too, but it doesn't look like that's where they're going.
He could do a really good job as that scrappy underdog that keeps fighting from underneath it, and you can't get your hands on him.
Oh yeah, he's perfect for that. He's very much in the Rey Mysterio mold, I feel, as a best use. But that's one of those things. It's like, god damn, but he's so good as a heel. That's the problem. Like his attitude. When you see him do some promos, you'll get it. But when just watching this match, it's like, oh, he's got all the character and all like the facial expressions, the demeanor and everything of a great heel. He can also be a great babyface. So it just kind of sucks. It's like one of those people that can really do it all. But you have to sacrifice something for another thing. So
I think that we're, with the Heat too, where for a heel, the heat is like he never gets his comeuppance because you can never catch him.
Yep. Yeah, it's perfect. But you know, it's also a weird situation. You're like, you have to debut yourself to a potentially a new audience that hasn't seen you before. So you got to show off to a certain degree, but you also got to maintain your heel character and not do it's an unenviable position. And he is a young guy. So, you know, it's I don't envy that position. I'm a fan of Leo Rush. I'm in his corner. Hopefully you know, he'll impress everybody because I know he's got the goods. It's just using those goods at the best possible way. Next is Dango shooting on Santino, where he basically tells the story of how Santino broke into the business, which is, as somebody that was there or kind of there, it's kind of true, but it's not exactly true. But yeah, he basically was saying how the only reason that Santino got a job is because Jim Cornette slapped him and the WWE didn't want him to sue the company. That's the story that Dango went with. Not that he was there. I was there, or at least I say sort of there because this happened during my hiatus when I was between, like I had come to OVW already and been there for a while. I moved back home, but before I moved back permanently to Louisville, all this stuff happened. And my friend that was there, my friend and tag team partner that I was communicating with the whole time, was telling me the story. So Santino came during my hiatus and he was training with the beginners, even though he had experience. Then he went into Rip Rogers' class. And what they used to do was they had they used to have like the students sit in this certain section of the crowd and they would be like the security, right? So Santino had his kid, his daughter, which, you know, Dango also mentioned, who works at the WWE now in NXT, but she was just a little toddler back then. So he would go back and forth to Canada, and I guess it was like a custody thing, you know, like he had visitation or whatever. So he got his daughter. I could be wrong on this part. This part I'm kind of fuzzy on, but that's just what I picked up. So he had gone to Canada to get his daughter and bring her back down for however long. And while he was gone, they decided to debut the Boogeyman on TV. So we all know the Boogeyman. He's coming to get you. And he was doing that gimmick, and he would like scare the audience. Like he would go to the audience and like go, like, and everybody, you know, of course the students that were supposed to be security for the show, they all sold it. Like, oh my God, you know, don't touch me, Boogeyman. Right. So Santino comes back after this had been going on, and he's sitting there and he's got his daughter with him, and he's sitting in the security section with the rest of the students. And he doesn't know the gimmick because he wasn't there to see the debut of the Boogeyman. And the Boogeyman goes to scare everybody, and he laughs because he thinks it's funny because it is ridiculous. And then Jim Cornette pulls him backstage, you know, slaps the shit out of him in front of everybody, supposedly, and kicks him out. And he was worried that he was never going to, you know, be able to be at OVW again. But, you know, to protect the names of the innocent, I won't tell you who, but some people advised him to call Johnny Ace and tell him what happened, because some of the people had been less than thrilled with Jim Cornette at OVW, and maybe the WWE was a little less than thrilled, and they were looking for an excuse to install Paul Heyman there and get Paul Heyman out of everybody's hair, because you know how Paul Heyman can be. So There goes Paul Heyman down to OVW. Jim Cornette's out of his own company that he helped to start. Yeah. But Santino did not get a job right off the bat. Whether that was because the optics of it would look bad, you know, like of all of a sudden the guy that gets slapped gets a WWE contract, or whether they really weren't planning on, like, as far as I knew, his reward for everything was not getting kicked out of the school. Like, he was allowed to come back and continue to train and everything like that. And then months later, after he had been doing a completely different gimmick than what he ended up doing as an Italian guy, you know, and the Milan Miracle and all that, after several months of training, that which I was there for, and I had been working with him the entire time, eventually the WWE gave him a contract when they did one of their tryouts when they came down there. Could it have been a favor tryout? Yes, but I don't remember at that time being close to several parties involved of hearing any scuttlebutt about him threatening to sue the WWE. So that part may be made up. That may be something that the fans had picked up, or maybe it had been erroneously reported or something like that. Or maybe I was just kept in the dark. But considering the amount of rumors that swirled around and made their way back to me that ended up becoming true, or at least partially true, that I heard about, I don't know why I wouldn't have heard about that one. So that's my personal take on the whole thing. I like to share those types of things when I have the opportunity. And so that's that. But somehow Santino here cuts a promo where he's like still in his ridiculous character, but he's serious and angry. So I thought this was really good promo. He actually says son of a bitch instead of son of a gun this time. So you know he's really angry now. But yeah, he took exception to it, and I thought it was a money promo. What about you?
I thought he nailed it. Like, this was exactly what it needed to be. Like he was stayed in character, but he cut the comedy, he cut the joking, he got right to the point and was serious because, well, Dango went personal.
Yep. Talked about the kid. Don't talk about the kid. And not to put myself over, but I mean, you remember me saying when Santino first joined with Impact, I was like, you're going to see that this guy can do whatever's necessary at any given time, and how good he is and how much range he has. He's not just a one-note character, you know? So I think this was a really good proof of that, of him showing like you don't have to break the kayfabe or whatever to get your point across. You can still be, even if you're doing the comedy gimmick, I mean, you could still be serious in the comedy gimmick somehow. Not everybody would do this. Not everybody would take this seriously. But yeah, he's that good. I'm just telling you guys. So I loved it. Apparently Brandon loved it. Anything to say about Dango's little video?
I mean, not a whole lot. I mean, it did feel like he was kind of trying to, like, okay, we're going for this. Obviously, Santino probably cleared this because they wouldn't be doing it if they didn't agree on it.
Sure.
But
I'm quite sure they're friends too. I mean, come on.
Yeah. But then once Santino's promo hit, like, okay, that was actually the nice layup for Santino to spike it. Yep,
sure did. Well, the next thing we see is not really the same as this. It's Fat Eddie and Kazarian, and what I took from this was maybe they're better off as opponents, as Eddie said. I don't know about you, but I found myself almost like it was almost funny enough to laugh at how many times the name Kowalski got thrown around in this one short backstage bit. Like, they are really beating this into the ground. Like,
do you know they're Kowalski guys?
I didn't. I'd forgotten until you just reminded me. Yeah. They kept saying that like it means anything to anybody. You know, like it's not something people can relate to. Even if you were saying like maybe to this audience, it might resonate if you were say something like, we're both Hogan guys, or somebody like on that level. No offense to Killer Kowalski. I'm not saying that. I'm not disparaging Killer Kowalski. But even for me, like, it's not like some known thing in wrestling where Kowalski guys stick together. That's not like a cliche that I know of. And I've been in the business So them doing this is kind of just like, I think it's okay to have it as a premise, but the amount of times that they reference it in a short span, it's like you're trying too hard. You know, like now I'm starting to, it's becoming more evident that this is ridiculous. Whereas if you just mentioned it back at the start or whatever, and you weren't obviously trying to remind everybody of some wrestler that it's in for an entire generation is more famous for training Triple H than anything he did in his own career. I again, not disparaging Killer Kowalski in any way. You guys know me better than that, but
And
yeah,
that's not to say that what he did and the people he trained was not an enormous contribution to the business.
no, it was. It's not appreciated enough, probably. I'm just saying, like, you know, like Liz is saying here, stop trying to make fetch happen. You know, like it's never going to happen. But you know, in a way, I'm glad that they're bringing up Killer Kowalski. But the way they're doing it is not optimal. Is basically what I'm trying to say. It's too shoehorned, and it makes you sound ridiculous. Especially because, like, look, I make fun of Eddie a lot, and it's mostly just for your guys' entertainment. But in all honesty, and I would say this directly, promos are not your strong suit, Eddie. I mean, I'll just look in the camera and say it. They're not. It's not what you're... I don't... Honestly, I couldn't tell you what your strong suit is at this point, but whatever it is, it's not promos. So you're not able to carry off what needs to be done here in this way. It sounds disingenuous a little bit. So it almost sounds like a parody, you know? So I don't know, but whatever. We'll see. We'll see what they do. And then we get, speaking of see what they do, we get Kylan King versus Masha Slamovich. Okay, they have a match. Even though I watched it, I was still like, I like watching Masha matches, but I still was watching it, like totally watching it and still zoned out during it. So I guess it really wasn't that necessarily great of a match, but I apologize. Yeah, no, not that great. Okay, not one of... Again, we you know, we were conditioned that Masha's a killer and beats everybody in 5 seconds, and now that in the post Jordan Grace era, she's having competitive matches with anybody. So even if Kylan King's one half of the tag team champions or whatever, it still feels like whatever. But after Killer Kelly comes out and neutralizes Taylor Wilde with a Masha hits the snowplow, and then we get the what do we want to call this? The I don't know. What do you think?
I think the crowd summed it up pretty well. If you listen to what they were chanting.
What were they chanting?
I know one of them was definitely HLA.
I'm back. I'm better than ever. Yeah.
There's very heavy undertones of like they knew what they were doing. Let's just put it that way.
Even overtones, you might say. Trip to Swingers Dungeon. Liz said, trip to Swingers Dungeon. I was waiting for someone to lick someone's face, honestly, she says. Well, yeah, basically what happens is they get face-to-face in the ring, and, you know, we got the chain still, and I guess Masha, the best way to describe it would be she leashes Killer Kelly and pulls her to the back. So, there you go. I don't know. Let's just see where this goes. Let's hope it doesn't go where Lab Rat thinks it's going to go. Let's just hope that.
I know, to be honest, I kind of had an idea where it was going to go when that first vignette came out where Kelly was talking about how she wanted to, like, saw Masha as a playmate. Like, this, they're probably going that direction with this.
Yeah. Well, ultimately, it's still a pro wrestling show, and they're not going to be able to do anything too sexy, so.
All right, and plus, the real world, this happens in the real world.
Yes. People always have dog collar matches in the comfort of their own home, and then chain each other to each other and walk around.
I guess you haven't been to a pride parade recently.
Well, I may have missed a few local, but it's been hot. It's been extra hot, so I couldn't. So Scott D'Amore gets a put over package here, which is funny. I'm glad we had Pierce Austin coming and singing the praise of Scott D'Amore, letting us know that he definitely deserves the praise and that he's a good guy. Because this is comical to me, and otherwise I would probably be a little harder on him, roasting him for it. But this is just like a long thing of like, even within the package, it feels like they're making excuses for Scott D'Amore. Like, look, I was in a newspaper once. Like, it's just like the actual accomplishments that they can list. And again, I'm not disparaging. Look, Scott D'Amore. Whatever you want to say, look, I'm sitting here doing a podcast. Scott D'Amore does and has done and continues to do way more than I do. So he contributes a lot more to wrestling than I do. I just sit here and critique his show, and then he makes the changes as necessary. So you're welcome. But I'm just saying, like, I have no amount of true disrespect for Scott D'Amore. I'm just trying to be entertaining because this is kind of silly, like the way they do this. Like, you don't have to like justify Scott D'Amore. Just putting him in the match is enough, and he can speak for himself. Like, it's almost like you're setting yourself up to shit the bed if you have to explain why he's supposed to be in a competitive match coming up pretty soon. It's like you're almost making excuses for yourself right off the bat, just in case anything goes wrong or whatever. We don't need to know. All we need to know is that, yeah, you did this, man. But they dedicated several minutes of TV time to telling you how many roads Scott D'Amore has been up and down, and how many people has come through his Can-Am dojo, and they had Kushida saying that he'd never done anything in wrestling before, and came to Scott D'Amore, and Scott D'Amore let him live with him, which I'm not sure that's entirely true. I was pretty sure that Kushida had some pro wrestling training before he ever came outside of Japan, but like, I don't know. I didn't look into it that deep. I'll just take him at his word. But just very interesting stuff here. And then he gets to go with Gia and no music underneath. And then he gets interrupted by the Good Hands. And Scott D'Amore, instead of challenging them to a match, just basically 6 PCO on him for next week. So that's basically what ends up happening here. Your thoughts on the great Scott D'Amore?
Ah, man, it was definitely much. Like, I can get like maybe just a little something to kind of explain, like, hey, he did this for a little bit, just a quick gloss over of his in-ring career. And then, obviously the PCO stuff is just lame and cheesy. I mean, I guess you can use the Good Hands to get him over, or at least get him with something.
You know what I could have gone for? Just to do my own little on-the-spot live punch-up that I spent 0 seconds thinking about it before we started talking about it. But, what would have been better than this long package is...
Long package.
Yeah. What would have been better than that is if, say, for example, maybe not just this once, but leading up to Slammiversary, or even like in a montage on one show, you could have had somebody like Gia, or even, I know Jimmy Jacobs is like the personal, and he's not going to be there anymore, but I'm just saying, like, you could have had Gia be like asking people, hey, what do you think about this or that? And then they can tell like a quick, short Scott D'Amore story. Like, yeah. Scott D'Amore's coming up on Slammiversary, him and PCO, and people are saying this is the blah blah blah, but what do you think about it? You have a history with Scott D'Amore, and then they could just tell a brief story, and then put him over that way. Like, hey, back when we were doing the ice road death tours or whatever, he pushed the van out of the ice when it fell through when it cracked and fell through the ice, and he pushed it out by himself, or whatever. Just put him over like in more organic ways. I think you could tell true stories, and I think that would do better than just him saying like, hey, I may not have been the world champion of every promotion, but I've been around. I think that does a little better for him,
Yeah, get more into his personality and who he is.
Yeah. and then you can tell like stories from a match. Like he was injured during a match and he made a comeback and pulled off the win, or just tell like a true anecdote about Scott D'Amore, and then that will get people ready to see him, without getting their expectations up too high. And maybe he didn't pull the van out of the broken ice, but the ice lake, but you know what I'm saying. I was just making it up. Like I said, 0 seconds of forethought. So next is Yuya Uemura versus Kenny King. And then before this match starts, we see Joe Hendry in the truck, and we find out that Josh Matthews is a truck monkey. So that's where he's been, if anybody was wondering. And then Kenny King gets the win after about 8 minutes of TV time, which I believe included a break. And then Hendry comes out, and he debuts the new single, which is called The Kenny King Story. But all these stories like have a main theme, and what was the theme for this one, Brandon?
Kenny used to be a stripper.
That's right. Yes, which gets a Stripper Kenny chant going. Stripper Kenny. Yeah. And I think Kenny King had the right reaction to this, where he didn't like oversell it, but he was kind of like, like, fuck. I don't want you to tell everybody this. Cause realistically, it's like in 2023, does it matter if a guy was a male stripper once? Like, is that?
And also as a Chippendales dancer, which is kind of like the elite, dancers,
yes. Yeah, those guys are way more over than Impact Wrestling. So I don't know if he's not slumming it being back here having a match with fucking Joe Hendry, or a program with Joe Hendry. But, regardless of that, the crowd seemed to have fun with it. And
that's what mattered.
Yeah. So while I will say that this is kind of like a good old boy mentality of like, oh, that'll be heat. He used to be a stripper, but in these days, who really doesn't care? Who really cares? But, it's a funny song. Was this song? I'm sorry, I didn't pay enough attention. I mean, I heard the whole song, but I wasn't listening to see if it was like a parody of an actual popular song like the other ones have been. Would you say this was derivative of a specific one? Or maybe somebody in the chat?
Not one that I've heard.
Okay. Yeah, it might have been. It may have been some Taylor Swift song or something. Or it could have just been Joe Hendry's generic songs, Who knows? It was funny, though. It was a catchy tune as usual. And, once again, Kenny King just sat there while Joe Hendry debuted this whole thing. If he was still in the truck, that would have been a better excuse why Kenny King would just run down there and punch him in the mouth. With Sheldon Jean, who's there also, so it's a 2-on-1. But once again, these guys are stuck around with their thumb up their ass while Joe Hendry just mocks them openly on the stage, and they have to watch a whole music video. So if he stayed in the truck, like I said, I think that probably would have been better production-wise. So again, you're welcome, Scott D'Amore, for my production notes. See if you can incorporate that into the next one. And you can still try my Gia interview idea if you want. And Liz saying, it's not like they wear more clothes in the ring than stripper wears. Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah, those Chippendales, I don't think they do full frontal usually. That's probably like extra off to the side, right? You don't get that in the main show. But yeah, there you go. Stripper Kenny. And finally, our main event, Nick Aldis explains his actions. What a blockbuster. That'd be a main event anywhere in the world. A man explaining his actions. I think a lot of men have to explain their actions. And I've got a long list of people ahead of Nick Aldis that I'd like to see. However, I'm just going to say this right at the top. I love Nick Aldis doing stuff like this. He's really good at these type of things. He doesn't make it feel like this is the same old wrestling bullshit, even though it is. It definitely is. It's the same cliche wrestling bullshit. I'm going to explain my actions. But Nick Aldis is so good, so conversational. Like, he's just at the right pitch and tone for this. Like, when he's talking to the people, his attitude is perfect. Like, he's nailing this in ways that most guys on the mic don't. Like, most of them overplay it, and it becomes too phony sports entertainment, or too wrestling or whatever. Like, this was as close to somewhat realistic as this situation can get, and I put that all on Nick Aldis' shoulders because he's clearly not scripted here. He's going off his bullet points. And he did this in the NWA, which made him a great figurehead for the NWA, and they look stupid for letting him go when he wanted to be there, because I don't really think they're doing shit right now. Colin says, nothing is too wrestling. Well, what do you expect from a North Carolinian? You shut the fuck up.
North Kakalaki.
Yeah, or you can jump in if you want, whatever. You got the keys. So, yeah, but anyway, so he calls out Alex Shelley. And Alex Shelley already coming out, like, again, now I swear to God, I'm not just picking on Alex Shelley. I would level this criticism at anybody. Even if Moose came out and did this, I would say this. But Alex Shelley comes off like a bitch in this situation. Not only does he call Nick Aldis a bitch, at some point, but that's not here. First, he's coming out and he's basically saying things like, this is my ring. He's saying, this is my ring. That's a heel thing to say. He says, I'm a working class hero, which you don't call yourself a working class hero. Other people call you a working class hero. You just stay humble. But in here, he's being like a cocky prick, even though he's supposed to be the babyface in the situation who was wronged, which he was. He was wronged by Nick Aldis, and that's why Nick Aldis is here to explain his actions. Otherwise, why would he have anything to explain? So clearly, from that perspective, he's looking at, I'm the victim in this situation, but he comes out and he starts talking like this, and he sounds like he's the heel almost. And he calls himself the people's champion. Again, the heel Rock can call himself the people's champion. The babyface doesn't call himself the people's champion. The people call you the people's champion. The announcers call you the people's champion. Anybody but you calls you the people's champion, right? I mean, am I making sense here?
I think the only time it ever worked was for The Rock because he did it as a heel and
as a heel
douchebag, and then it eventually turned him into a babyface.
Right, and if you're the babyface, then you continue doing the things that got you over as a heel, and the people just cheer for you. But Alex Shelley's supposed to be the babyface. He's never not been the babyface, at least not for a long, long time. And he comes off in this situation like he's the douchebag. And the only reason that the crowd is not going along with that is because they know they're not supposed to. Because they know Nick Aldis was in the wrong. So, and he's British. So that right there is enough for them to still stick with him because they know they're supposed to. But based on just his actions alone, he's kind of whiny here. So, Alex, I'm just telling you, like, you as the babyface stay humble and let everybody else put you over. But anyway, he does sit down in the crowd because he's the people's champion. But he also, I listened to these two. Nick Aldis does his explaining, and the way he lays it out, even though he's being a heel, he's still being more calm and rational than Alex Shelley is. Alex Shelley's going for the cheap pops and the insults. He does call him a bitch. And I'm just watching this and I'm like, of these two, like, what grown man in their right mind, if they ever just turned on the channel and just saw this and looking at the situation, what grown man in there, or woman or whoever in there, what grown adult in their right mind would cheer for Alex Shelley based on what they said over Nick Aldis? Like,
I mean, Aldis or Shelley's actions, the way he behaved, kind of proved everything Aldis said right.
Right. And I don't know if he meant to do that. Like, are they planning a turn? Like a double turn or something? Or like, what do they think they're going to do? But that's just my observation. And I don't think I'm really wrong in that, but it is what it is, up to the crowd to decide. These people decided they were going to back Shelley, but again, that's because that's the direction they were being led. It wasn't specifically based on their words alone. So I guess something happens here where, now I forget the order of what happened, because did they get in the ring and start to fight?
I believe so, yes, and then Leo Rush ran in.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, no.
Sabin had to come out first, right?
Yes. Yeah, so they had to have fought. Sabin runs in, and then Rush runs in.
Right. So again, 2-on-1 baby faces here at the start. Or was it just that Nick Aldis jumped him and Sabin was trying to protect his friend? I think that was probably more like it, right? But either way, Rush comes in, and that's a surprise in itself. Just the fact that he's backing up Nick Aldis, because to my knowledge, these two have never had any interactions or what's the word? Affiliation in the past. And we know Lio Rush he could definitely fit in with that like high roller limousine riding, jet flying type that Nick Aldis likes to play. Lio Rush would look good in that kind of, in that setup, in that character. So
he would fit right in as like an associate of Nick Aldis.
Yeah, so this was an unexpected pairing that I'm interested to see what they do with. He and Aldis leave the guns laying. I'm fine with that. Like Labras said earlier, I'm cheering when the guns get beat up. And yep. And he even says Nick and Rush became face in my eyes at the end of this. So, yeah, there you go. That's the episode of Impact there. So, I mean, what do you think? What would you give this as a letter grade? It's another one of those in between a major event shows.
I give it a D plus.
A D plus. Oh my God, they barely avoided failing. All right. Well, real quick, I'll run down the Impact Down Under shows. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I'll kind of give everybody an overview of what happened and the cards. So night one, we had an opening match of two Australian mainstays, which apparently they've had a feud in the past, which is Slex, The Business, which your peers talking about earlier, versus Adam Brooks. If you've never seen Adam Brooks, he looks like Alexander Hammerstone if Alexander Hammerstone were a normal-sized human being. But other than that, he looks just like him. I believe Adam Brooks went over in this, not that it matters. Then the Motor City Machine Guns cut a promo because they've got matches. They've got individual matches on this show. Then we get Giselle Shaw versus somebody named, and I quote, the Dreamtime Voodoo Witch, Erica Reed. When you hear a name like Dreamtime Voodoo Witch, you may have expected a name more exotic than Erica Reed, but there we go. Well, she's Dreamtime and she's voodoo, but she's not going to beat Giselle, so there you go. And I believe I saw a picture of I like how Impact ended, but zero follow-up on the shows down under. Well, they hadn't occurred yet. That's why. Like, these shows just happened over the weekend. They had already taped this 3 weeks ago. So that's why you're not going to get any follow-up. And that would be too much post-production work, But yeah, they hadn't even aired yet. I think show one was on Friday, Saturday, something like that. It was like it's either Friday or Saturday or Sunday, and it's already the next day in Australia, so that even more plays havoc with my time zone brain. So then we get a promo from Burt Macklin. Then we get Fat Eddie versus Joe Hendry for the Digital Media Championship. Fat Eddie does not walk out with the Digital Media Championship. Then they show the Impact wrestlers on a trip to the zoo. So in case we were trying to maintain any kayfabe, we don't. We just see all heels and baby faces petting animals, and that's pretty funny, but it's not good for the business.
You do it with the baby faces, but not with the baby faces and the heels.
Right. And I would allow Moose to do it, since he is a moose. But other than that, no.
Have him face-to-face with the moose.
Yeah, exactly. Liz says, I'm just going to say it's normally Voodoo Queen or Voodoo Priestess. Yeah, well, no. You get a Voodoo Witch now. Maybe those other two were taken already as gimmicks down there, since everybody likes to do these type of gimmicks. Labras said, where's PCO? I don't know. Probably in the fucking hospital after everything he does to himself. We got Killer Kelly versus somebody named Aisha. Aisha has sort of like, her gimmick is sort of like, I don't know what you would call it exactly, but she came out with a champagne bottle, so I guess she like club girl? I don't know. Like high class club girl? Hostess? I don't know. Like what? Not really sure. She's a girl who likes to party, I guess. That's the general vibe I got. And they tried to do the champagne and a gimmick with the finish, where she tried to spit the champagne in Kelly's face, and she missed it, and Kelly got caught. Or Kelly took the bottle from her and started drinking it in the ring, and then the referee took the bottle, and then Kelly choked her out and whatever. So there you go. And then we get a 3-way with Kazarian and Sabin and Robbie Eagles, who is part of the Mighty Don't Kneel and also associated with New Japan Pro Wrestling, but he's Australian, so it makes sense that he'd be on this card. Triple threat for the X Division title. Of course, it's definitely going to be Sabin. He's not doing a job for anybody, brother. So he retains. K-Sound's gimmick, Lab Rat? No, their gimmick is like ravers. This is like, VIP lounge, I think, is more her gimmick, if that makes sense. As much as they could get that over in a short indie match. Obviously, they didn't have the setup for anything to show that. So, then you get the ABC versus the Most Professional Wrestling Gods. So, as you could probably imagine, the ABC was going to retain their title. If it was even on the line, I'm pretty sure it was on the line. But
I'm surprised they went to that match that quickly.
yeah, I think it was just, they're just like, nobody's going to watch this. Let's do it for the house type deal. Yeah. Or just a preview to get them, like some warm-up matches before like the angle really goes down.
Get their tuning, get their chemistry right.
Right. Yeah, something like that. Then they showed a travelogue for Wagga Wagga in case anybody's interested in tourism. And then we get a Steph DeLander promo. Remember her? The Steph DeLander. She's from Australia, and she used to be known as Percha Parada in NXT, but now she's Steph DeLander. So she's got a match with Deonna Purrazzo for the Knockouts title. Steph comes out and buries, Wagga Wagga, saying this is a base, basically she does a more vicious version of the Good Hands, because this is her hometown, or not hometown, but like it's Australia, but she's like, this is the worst, this is the worst city in Australia ever. So they make sure they're firmly behind Deonna, and of course Deonna wins. And then the main event is Burt Macklin versus Alex Shelley for the Impact Championship. I didn't really care to pay too much attention to this match, but from what I could feel from the match, it wasn't per se watching it, but feeling it, felt like they had a better match than they did at Against All Odds or whatever that pay-per-view was where Alex Shelley won the belt. So it was a better match than that, but maybe not the best. He said, Buckshot Kid says, that voodoo girl, the neck down, thumbs up, but the neck up, Tengu mask. Yeah, I'll go with that. All right, and then night 2, we get Adam Brooks versus Robbie Eagles for the, I guess this is for the inaugural OPW championship, which we were talking about, Oceania Pro Wrestling. We talked about, that's kind of hard to say. That's a little tongue twister. If you try to say Oceania Pro Wrestling 3 times fast, it's not.
Oceania Pro Wrestling, Oceania Pro Wrestling, Oceania Pro Wrestling.
Well, you're the man. So Brooks, Adam Brooks wins the OPW title here, so I guess he's the first ever champion, unless I misunderstood everything they were saying. Then we get a Giselle promo on Deonna. She says, I'm going to break your arm, bitch. There you go. She said more, but I'm just trying to run through this. And then we get our first match that Pierce Austin was ring announcing, which he already talked about some. It was the Natural Classics versus the Velocities. And the Natural Classics are 2 guys that are from the Fale Dojo, which is a New Zealand, wrestling school. Bad Luck Fale from New Japan, blah, blah, blah. And the Natural Classics end up beating the Velocities. And I wrote down, after 8 minutes, the grown men put away the middle schoolers, finally. The Velocities were not big. They were not big at all. But like Pierce was saying, he knows those guys, and this is a chance for them on the stage, and I felt like they did a decent job acquitting themselves. But the optics of it were too big to ignore. Like the Natural Classic guys were significantly bigger than than the other two guys, the velocity. So then Deanna cuts a promo back on Giselle. And then we get Moose versus Joe Hendry for the Digital Media Championship. Joe Hendry tries to do a Dancing Moose promo, you know, like
I believe in moose dancing.
Yeah, he tries to get that going. It's a little the match for these guys is a little slow. They're not as crisp as they normally are. They're bigger guys, but I've seen them both be sharper than this. But you know, maybe they were jet lagged. I don't know what the deal was. They just looked a little sluggish in there. Not their best. Hendry rolls up Moose at some point. Then we get some footage of a meet and greet. And then there was a part where Deanna and Bert stood while a bunch of school kids got naked and circled around them waving twigs. I'm not gonna get into that. It's apparently some sort of native ritual there or something, like, you know how Australia is, right? Anyway,
I guess.
Yeah, they had to put it over. It was funny. Then we get Fat Eddie versus Slex. Slex looks good. He's definitely not fat. Fat Eddie is fat, but he hits the Boston Knee Party for the win. Steph DeLander versus Kelly Kelly. I wish. Killer Kelly. Steph wins this one. And the announcers say it's her first win in Impact. So there you go. Steph DeLander finally gets a win over Killer Kelly. Then Kaz cuts a promo on Brian Myers, and then they do Kazarian versus Myers. And Kaz wins with his deadly chicken wing, his trusty deadly chicken wing that he always beats everybody with and always has for his whole career. And then we get a Motor City Machine Guns package, and then we get the Motor City Machine Guns versus ABC for the Tag Team Championships. Guns are greedy. They want to hold all the gold, which feeds more into my these guys are heels idea. But, they end up not winning. They hit the... let me tell you how much these guys fucking... I know Pierce is putting them over, but God damn it. In the finish of this match, ABC hits I'll call it the Art of the Fold, because that's where they each hit their individual finishers, and it usually ends with Ace Austin's fold, right?
Yep.
And so I'll call it the Art of the Fold. They hit their double team on both guys. Like, first they hit it on Shelley to get rid of him. Then, after a very short sequence, they hit it on Chris Sabin, and they pin Chris Sabin. But before they count to 3 on Chris Sabin, Shelley was still trying to get back in the ring to break up the pin, and he got held off. So he couldn't just sell the double team finish, the finish that's good enough to put Goldberg 98 away, by the way. He couldn't just lay there and sell. He still had to get his shit in and try to get up and save. Like, all right, just bury the finish, You bury yourself for not selling. You bury them for not being able to keep you down with their double team finish, and you bury Chris Sabin because he just got beat by that finish that you just got back up from. So, good job. All right, enough on that. And then we get a package, and then the main event is Giselle Shaw versus Deonna Purrazzo for the Knockouts title. They have their normal good match, and Venus de Milo ends it, and your Knockouts champion is still Deonna Purrazzo. So, there you go.
My only question is, where do you go with Giselle Shaw from here? I mean, every big opportunity has been a swing and a miss as far as, like, on screen. As far as, like, every time, like, title opportunity, big match, always loses.
Yep. I guess it's just a case of, could this be...
could it be like a reverse nepotism, maybe?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, because we talked about that in the past, too. And, it's just continuing on. Like, we don't want to make it too obvious, if you're sleeping with a boss, you don't want to, you don't want to make it, she wins everything now. So, give Deonna her chance, and then she'll be able to say, hey, I put over everybody in this fucking company once. I think I deserve a turn. So it'll be justified then. No one will be able to say shit. At least that's their justification for it. So, but that's our justification for a supersized episode this week. I believe that if it hasn't already started, the Wednesday locker room will be starting soon. If you guys want to check that out, but we're done here, as far as I know. Brandon, anything you want to put over before we get out of here?
Yeah, as always, you can find me on Twitter at TransArchistTia, as well as on Twitch at twitch.tv/MissTia the Transarchist, as well as on Substack at HMGBrandon.
That's right. There you go. Check that stuff out. You can check me out all over Hami Media Group, all over Pro Wrestling Coalition, all over everything. Twitch.tv/Opinion Haver. Anything you want to see. Opinion Haver on all social media platforms, gaming platforms, any platform where you could find a person or their username, that's me. So you type in Opinion Haver and your favorite whatever, and you never know what might pop up. So that's basically going to do it. I'm fucking roasting hot, and I'm the vet. And for Brandon, I don't have a sign-off line.